What is up, everybody, and welcome back to Four Man Blitz. We have Commanders Chris, Broad Sports, and Bronze by Jacob. Obviously, you guys all know them, so there's no need to introduce them, but we have a few topics. We're starting divisional overview today, like promised, but we're first going to start off with a Would You Rather. People seem to like that last episode. We're going to do it again. But today we're going to talk about Joe Mixon, who Broad named. It's kind of funny that he named it. So we're going to talk about Joe Mixon, Would You Rather. So we'll go in circle. Okay, so Joe Mixon or Aaron Jones? Chris.
Okay, that's a good one.
Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon. Jacob.
Joe Mixon.
Broad.
I mean, both are really, really good, but you can use Mixon for not just running, but also in the passing game a little bit better than Aaron Jones. So I have to go Mixon.
Y'all are crazy, bro. Aaron Jones is better than Joe Mixon. Anyway, Joe Mixon or Josh Jacobs? Chris.
That's easy.
That is easy.
Very easy.
Chris,
Joe
Joe Mixon. Okay. Jacob.
Joe Mixon.
Broad.
Joe Mixon, even though I saw something very funny on Twitter that apparently the Eagles are interested in trading for Josh Jacobs.
Love Josh Jacobs.
So I found that pretty funny.
Yeah, I'm a big Josh Jacobs.
Yeah,
I'm a big Josh Jacobs fan, but Joe Mixon's better. All right. Joe Mixon or Austin Eckler? Chris.
Joe Mixon.
Jacob.
This is a really close one. But I just, the way when I see Joe Mixon, I feel running back. I feel the more of a pure runner. I have to take Mixon, but this is a good argument either way because of Eckler's ability to catch the football. It's just Mixon, man.
Broad.
I mean, this one's really, really tough because at least from the clips I've seen, Eckler, he's more of a traditional north-south runner, while Mixon, he tries to get to the outside, tries to do a lot of different things, especially catching balls in the flat. Oh, this one's tough, but honestly, I'm going to have to go with Mixon.
I'm going to take Mixon actually by a good amount. I feel like people hype up Eckler a little more because he's so good in fantasy and so many people play fantasy. I feel like fantasy has an effect on people's perspective on Austin Eckler. Because I just don't.
Yeah.
I feel like when you turn on the film and watch Joe Mixon versus Austin Eckler, there's a gap in running back. So Joe Mixon or Najee Harris? Broad.
Joe Mixon. Najee Harris, he was great last year, but I don't think he's better than Mixon just yet.
Jacob.
This is really a tough answer from a Browns fan because I love Najee. I think if Najee was given a good offensive line, he could possibly be like a top 4 running back.
Which running back would you rather have from a rival team?
So I think right now you got to go Joe Mixon, but I wouldn't be surprised if after this season the answer is Najee.
Chris.
Production wise, it's Joe Mixon, but I'm going Najee Harris.
Okay.
I'm taking Joe Mixon. Okay, so this one's a little interesting. So it's definitely more of a potential type thing. So Joe Mixon or Javonte Williams? Chris.
I'm not gonna lie, I haven't looked into Javonte Williams much, so I'm gonna just say Joe Mixon.
Jacob.
Well, from a potential perspective, I don't think Javonte will get there. I think he can be a very good running back in the NFL, but this year is not going to be the year still with Melvin Gordon there. So it's easily Joe Mixon.
Ain't nobody over Gordon.
I mean, I'm going Mixon, but Javonte was really good last year watching a lot of his tape.
I'm gonna take Mixon, but I was a big Javonte fan coming out of UNC, and I'm still a big Javonte fan. All right.
He's better than Michael Carter. We can all agree on that.
Yeah, by far. Joe Mixon or Saquon Barkley? Chris.
Oh, this is going to piss Zone off.
Not even close.
Joe Mixon.
Jacob.
Joe Mixon. I mean, if Saquon can stay healthy, like with CMC, there's question marks when these running backs have these major injuries. Will they play the same? Will they run the same? And I think, like CMC and Saquon, they're both still question marks. So he could prove me wrong, but right now it's Joe Mixon.
Broad.
Like what Jacob said, I do think that Saquon is the better running back. However, he just hasn't stayed healthy the last 2 seasons. So I have to take Mixon in this case.
Okay, I'll take Joe Mixon, obviously. Joe Mixon or Ezekiel Elliott? Broad.
Now, that one's an interesting one, in my opinion, because I mean, this might be unpopular, but I'm gonna take Zeke.
Now, Zeke, okay, I see a lot of size, especially from the Washington fan and the Browns fan. Zeke is still a good running back. All right, people don't
Yes.
understand this. Zeke was still very explosive last year. People just kind of, I think Zeke is extremely underrated in my opinion, but I'm still taking Joe Mixon.
I would agree. As much as I hate him, not just because he's a Cowboy, but also because he's an Ohio State Buckeye.
But I will say Zeke is also a three-dimensional running back. Not only can he catch the ball, not only can he run the ball, he's an elite pass blocker from the running back position, which is very handy. Chris, Zeke or Joe Mixon?
Joe Mixon, like, bro, Zeke or Elliott, bro. I don't care, bro. He's just not as explosive anymore, bro. I'm not taking him over Joe Mixon right now. Tony Pollard's gonna overtake him in a little bit, anyways.
Jacob.
Well, obviously, I'm going to take Mixon here, and I think with Zeke, it's the reality of running backs in the NFL is that their prime is not very long, and I think his is going down, and Tony Pollard's is going up. So I really want to see Pollard get more touches in that backfield because I think he's very good.
All right, that is the final. Would you rather that's the final switch. We'll obviously do more would you rather's, but let's start.
Which one would you take?
Oh, me versus Joe Mixon and Zeke.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm taking
You
Joe
didn't
Mixon.
answer.
Yeah, I'm taking Joe Mixon.
Fair enough.
Okay, so let's start division overviews, which today, obviously, we talked about. We're starting with the NFC North, obviously. And let's start with who do you guys want to start? You guys, any team you guys want to start with? You just want to start off the top?
I guess start at the top with the Green Bay Packers.
All right, the Green Bay Packers. So the Packers in free agency in the draft added Quay Walker, Devontae Wyatt, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson, and Sammy Watkins, and then lost some big pieces, obviously. Za'Darius Smith, Devontae Adams, Valdez-Scantling. So they also did go, I will say, very impressive. I didn't even realize this. They did not lose a home game this year. They went 8-0 at home this year. Really impressive for the Packers. Obviously, they still have Aaron Rodgers. So, Jacob, they lost Valdez-Scantling, who was decent, but obviously they lost the best receiver in the NFL. And they tried to replace him with Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Sammy Watkins. So how do you think their passing attacks can go after that's a major loss?
Well, I think the way that you got to look at it, they have arguably the second best running back duo in the NFL. They lost their offensive coordinator, Nathaniel Hackett. So I think you got to run the ball more. There's no question of it. And I think Aaron can do that. And I think Aaron can use Christian Watson and he can use these other guys. So it doesn't necessarily scare me. I think people are overreacting to the loss of Devontae, especially when you look at the other side of the ball. I mean, Green Bay might have the best defense this upcoming year. They just do a great job with replacing talent and building it up. And I think the Packers are going to be amazing this year.
And quick note, they did lose Za'Darius Smith, but they had Rashawn Gary, who was very good last year, off the edge as well. So, Chris, what do you think about the Packers this year? Obviously losing their wide receivers and replenishing them with very young, unproven guys.
I think that, obviously I think that I'd say Devontae Adams is a guy, of course, but I think that Devontae Adams prospered more from Aaron Rodgers than Aaron Rodgers prospered from him. So I think that, when you have Aaron Rodgers, bro, first or second best quarterback in the league, the wide receivers you have is going to obviously be better than if you play with a mid-level quarterback. So he's going to help the younger guys get into the league and,
Yeah.
You can't forget about Lazard either. I'm really excited for him. I think he can jump into that good wide receiver category.
I agree.
So Broad, on the outlook for the Packers this year, what do you see for them record-wise? Obviously, we'll talk about playoffs later in the season.
I mean, I could see anywhere, honestly, between 10 to probably 12 wins for the Packers. I still think that they'll be very, very good. I agree with what Chris said, where Devontae Adams kind of thrived with Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers didn't thrive with him. Because remember the first few years that Adams was in the NFL, Adams was not his primary target. That was Randall Cobb. But also,
he struggled.
Yeah, and I think Tonyan also really needs to take a big step in this offense because you saw what he's capable of when he's healthy and what big part of the Packers passing game is. And also, you're getting a full season, hopefully, of a fully healthy Jair Alexander, a fully healthy David Bakhtiari. So I still think the Packers can be very, very good.
And you also have, even if your wide receivers are a little lackluster, which, by the way, apparently Romeo Doubs has been impressing in camp so far. Christian Watson's been a little quieter, which is what we expected, but running back is apparently really good in camp so far. You still have the best running back duo in the NFL in the backfield. You still have
Yeah, I
a
would
very
agree.
good offensive line.
Wait. Did you just say they're the best? Because I don't.
They're one of the
Okay.
best.
They're the best.
I don't understand how Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt is. I
Because
need
Aaron
that.
Jones and AJ Dillon over Nick Chubb
Okay.
and Kareem Hunt.
Well, Nick Chubb is obviously, a good amount ahead of Aaron,
Yes,
right?
and AJ Dillon's a good amount ahead of Kareem Hunt. I agree.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much even. But I'm taking
no.
Green Bay.
No, not yet. Either way, if you think AJ Dillon's a little bit better than Kareem, which is blasphemy. I've
not
never
blasphemy.
even heard anybody
It's
say
not
that.
blasphemy, dude.
Not
AJ Dillon was
blasphemy.
really good last year.
The Browns are it's still that running back duo. Then nobody uses the Browns. Like the Browns are most efficient with that running back duo. The way they use it,
You also
integrate
said
it.
the Browns have the best running back duo of all time. So
I didn't say of all time. I said the best running back room of all time.
no, that is not. All right, this is not. All right. So I actually had my record prediction for the Green Bay Packers at 11 wins, which is right in between Broads. Chris, what do you think the Packers are going to win this year? 11. Jacob, how many wins are the Packers going to win this year?
These aren't my final predictions, but I had them at 12 last time I did them.
Okay. So now let's move on to the Minnesota Vikings, who are a really interesting team this year, really. So the Vikings added Jordan Hicks, Andrew Booth, Lewis Cine, and Zadarius Smith, and then lost head coach Mike Zimmer, obviously, Anthony Barr, who just signed with the Cowboys last week, and then Michael Pierce. They didn't lose anybody huge. What's the shock face for?
No, I'm just looking at stats. It's
Okay, whatever. And I obviously, I'm gonna go ahead and say I have the Vikings winning 8 to 9 games this year. I feel like there's always a big hype behind the Vikings. It's always people expect this big jump because they look at like the main positions. They see Kirk Cousins, who's good. He's there. He's decent. He's definitely serviceable. And then you see obviously the wide receivers. You have Justin Jefferson, who's I think soon will be the best wide receiver in the league. He's just different. You also have Adam Thielen, who's a very good wide receiver. And you go to the defense and you have playmakers. But I always feel like they just disappoint. They're not very good in clutch. I feel like the Vikings I don't see winning the clutch ever. Dalvin Cook, I forgot to mention Dalvin Cook there, but he can't really seem to stay healthy either. So, Broad, what do you think about the Vikings this year?
Oh man, what could I say to not anger the Vikings fans like I did last season when I said week 5 of the NFL that they weren't going to make the playoffs, kept telling me I didn't know football, and then they ended up missing the playoffs, and I trolled the hell out of them. But I mean, I have them anywhere between honestly 8 to possibly 10 games. I think that they could make the jump, but the weird thing with the Vikings is this every other year crap with them.
Yeah.
When you look back, because it was like, 2013 made the playoffs, 2014 missed, 2015 won the division, lost in the wild card, 2016 missed, 2017 made the NFC Championship game to get blown out by the Eagles, and then
I mean, I've seen people go as far as saying the Vikings could win the division this year, which I think is ridiculous. There's no way they beat the Packers.
Hell no.
Because I mean, to be fair, Aaron Rodgers owns that whole division.
I mean, is it
He
really?
does.
I don't think it's that ridiculous, but I don't think they'll win it. I mean, as long as Aaron Rodgers is in that division, he's going to win the division every year. But I don't think it's as ridiculous to say the Vikings could win the division.
It's definitely. I mean, they had the second
it's not
best
ridiculous,
chance.
but it's ridiculous to say that they will run away with it.
But I feel like the division definitely has gaps. It's like the Packers all the way up here, then you have a gap Vikings, then a gap Lions and Bears. Lions, then a slight gap Bears. Because I think the Lions are significantly better than the Bears. So Jacob, what do you think about the Vikings this year? How many games are they going to win?
Well, last time I did my predictions, which was kind of right after the Deshaun situation, and it's definitely been over a month. So they're a little behind, and I'm going to get into those more, but I had them at about 8 wins. I think they're going to sit on that 500 threshold. I don't think they're going to be a bad team. I think they can definitely be a good team. Lots of talent there. Kirk just got that extension or whatever you want to call it. I agree with you. I don't think they're going to be that elite team that everybody wants to talk about it as, but they'll definitely be good.
Okay. Chris, did I ask you for your record prediction of the Vikings?
No.
All right. What's obviously good? What's your record prediction?
Yeah, like Brian said, I think it's going to be in between 8 to 10 wins for the Vikings. I think that they could be a wild card team in the NFC, and they could get a top wild card spot and slip into the playoffs potentially if everything goes well. But if not, they could be like just missing out on the playoffs, just missing out on that 7th spot, 6th spot.
And apparently, it is going to be a super pass heavy offense this year, which is really interesting. You think with Dalvin Cook in the backfield, you'd run the ball a lot, but obviously you have playmakers with Justin Jefferson. But then
the problem is with Dalvin Cook is, yes, we can all agree he's a fantastic running back, but ever since he's been at Florida State, his hamstring has been terrible.
Yeah.
Every single year with the Seminoles, he would pull the exact same hamstring. And then he dealt with the exact same hamstring again in the NFL.
But then you still have Alexander Madison, who's still a good running back. I go very good backup. And all I'm saying is like, I know you have playmakers on the outside with Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, and even Irv Smith in the tight end spot. But it's just you're relying on Kirk Cousins to win you games. And I feel like when you have that type of quarterback, the Kirk Cousins, the Jimmy Garoppolo, the Tannehill, those type of quarterbacks, when you have to rely on them to consistently win you games, you're just not going to go far. I mean,
not at all.
Like I love Kevin O'Connell. You know what I'm saying? Kevin O'Connell was with Washington at one point, but I just don't know how that pass-heavy offense is going to work with Kirk Cousins. Like Dylan said, once you have a quarterback like that, one of those average tier quarterbacks, you don't want him passing 30 times every game. You want him to hand the ball off more. So I don't know how that's going to work.
Yeah.
But I am very confident in Kevin O'Connell, definitely over Mike Zimmer. So.
But there's also I think there's also a difference between like a Kirk Cousins and a Carson Wentz, because I do think Kirk is better than Carson, but it's more that Carson Wentz is a really aggressive quarterback, and Kirk Cousins I just feel like is not that same tier of aggressiveness. When you have an aggressive quarterback like Carson Wentz, you can put it in his hands and you just say, all right, well, if you get us there, you get us there. If you don't, you don't. But with Kirk Cousins, I mean, it's just not the same. And also, I will say one really weird thing I remember is that the Vikings like traded within their division a ton within the draft, which is like the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Didn't they do 3 trades within their division? I think they traded with
Lions, Packers.
Yeah.
It is so I've never seen that before. Where they brought a new GM in this year, and he was trading within the division draft picks, which is so weird.
He was a former. He was just an executive with us. They went ahead and the Vikings picked him up. Like mind wise, I think he's very good, but that definitely shocked me, especially to let them move up and get a guy like Jameson Williams at that 12 spot, I believe, or it was 12 or 14.
Didn't he give the Packers Christian Watson too, or somebody else?
No, I think he gave him Christian Watson.
So he gave.
Yeah, I think they traded out of 32.
Which I think Andrew Booth's apparently been kind of mediocre in camp so far too. Which I was high on Andrew Booth, but
I find it funny that the last 2 drafts, that 2 rival teams was in the same division, traded with each other, where one team could get a really solid wide receiver in the draft. Because like we just said with the Lions and the Vikings, Jameson Williams, don't forget the Cowboys also did that last year with the Eagles, so that the Eagles could get Devontae Smith.
Yeah. And obviously we'll see how everyone performs. I mean, it could be fine. I mean, maybe Jameson Williams just isn't that guy, and maybe Christian Watson isn't that guy, and it pans out. And then maybe Andrew Booth is an all-pro corner. I mean, we don't know. But it's definitely interesting that they did, and Lewis seemed to. It's kind of weird that they give 2 wide receivers and then draft 2 secondary guys. It's kind of odd, but
very odd.
It's the Vikings. And then let's go.
Minnesota for you.
Let's go on to the Bears. So the Bears team's rough, man. So they added Trevor Siemian, Byron Pringle, David Moore, Dane Cruikshank, Kari Blasingame, Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Velus Jones, and they lost obviously Khalil Mack and Allen Robinson. Those are the main 2. I'm gonna be honest. I had them winning like 3 to 4 games, maybe 5 if Justin. Because I like Justin Fields. I liked him a lot out of college. Maybe he'll be able to pull off some stuff like he did with the Niners last year, where he kind of gets him in a position. But that wide receiver room's rough. Velus Jones went to Tennessee, but he's 25 as a rookie. You have Darnell Mooney, who's very unproven. You have Byron Pringle as your wide receiver 2. That secondary is rough. Eddie Jackson hasn't been good since 2018, and he was really good in 2018, but he's fallen off a cliff. Kyler Gordon, I actually like. Their edge is going to be rough. I don't see how they're going to get pass rush. Their offensive line continues to not get any work by their GMs. Even their second round pick, was he first? No, he was a first round pick. Tevin Jenkins. Was he first or second?
No, you're second.
Yeah, I think he was like early second now.
Early second. So Tevin Jenkins is also on the trade block, so he probably won't play this year. Their O-line continuously gets worse. And I don't understand why the Bears GMs continuously do not put an offensive line on a team. They have not had an offensive line in years. Even when Mr. Trubisky was there, that offensive line was horrid.
That was terrible.
And I mean, they had all those pieces. They had Mitchell Trubisky, who obviously I don't think is that good, but they had Mitchell Trubisky. They had a run game. They had Allen Robinson. They had Khalil Mack. They had a 2018 defense, which is very good. And now their defense is mediocre at best. They have no offensive line. They have a few good running backs. They're getting that. And they have a quarterback who's going to have a very, very rough year. I would not be shocked if Justin Fields ends up being the most sacked quarterback in the NFL this year. I have them winning 3 to 4, maybe 5 wins. Jacob, what do you think about the Bears this year?
Well, yeah, all I can say is I agree. I didn't like the Matt Eberflus hire. I really thought they should have went the offensive direction. I thought they were going to build around Justin Fields, and they didn't. They traded away Khalil Mack, which you didn't get a ton for him. I think it was like a second and a fourth or something. I would have tried to get a first-round pick out of that. But, he was starting to get on the decline of his career. Injuries were always a question mark. You got a young Roquan Smith that's ready to step up. Wide receiver-wise, you lose A-Rob. I think he's going to be phenomenal in L.A., but I do like Darnell Mooney. I have liked him for a while, so hopefully he can develop into something. But, I mean, this is going to be a long rebuild for the Bears. The GM hire, the head coach hire, just they didn't do a good job, and they didn't get much better.
I just feel like you're definitely going in the wrong direction for the Bears right now. Chris, what do you think about the Bears this year?
All right, I'm going to say a lot of wild stuff, so y'all just buckle up. First off, I'm not going to lie, bro. The Bears team, the Bears of all-around roster is so bad. Like, they should just, release all the rest of their remaining good players and scrap the team, bro. Like, that was, I have them winning, maybe 2 to 4 games. It's really bad. I don't even know if I was, ahead of the Bears, I don't know where I would start even to rebuild that team. I mean, it's your O-line's bad, your wide receiver room's bad, everything's bad. I mean, you can't name a real bright spot on the team. Maybe Justin Fields. I mean, I don't know. Justin Fields is going to have a tough couple of years there. He may be out of there in a couple of years after he stinks it up because they didn't give him nothing. So, I don't know, man. I mean, it's not much you can do or say about that team. I mean, it's just an absolute disgrace.
All right, Broad, what do you think about the Bears this year, dude?
The Bears are trash. They are gonna be terrible.
Yeah.
And yes, I said it like a native Chicagoan on purpose. Because I find their accent incredibly annoying, but I digress. I think they're gonna be awful. I think they're gonna be between 3 to 5 years. And looking at their schedule, there's so many games. I think it's gonna be between a few teams for the number 1 overall pick. Chicago, Atlanta, Houston, maybe Jacksonville, the Jets, and there's several games where, this could be a battle for the number 1 overall pick for the Bears. They play Houston, they play Atlanta, they play the Jets. They're going to be awful.
I think the differences between I like Davis Mills a lot. I'm not off Trevor Lawrence yet 'cause it's been 1 year. And I'm sorry, that team's coaching in front office last year was abysmal. That was horrible. I remember against Tennessee.
Doug Peterson was the smart hire for the Jaguars.
Yes, and I remember Tennessee, in a Tennessee game, 2 wide receivers literally ran into each other mid-play, on their route combinations. That bad. And it happened a few times this year. They ran into each other in their route combinations. I think Trevor Lawrence would be good enough. I think Davis Mills would be good enough to get them wins. We'll talk about Houston and we'll talk about Jacksonville when we go to the AFC South, obviously. So that's going to be a later conversation. I don't think they're in competition for the first overall pick. The Bears definitely are. Bears and Atlanta both have very rough times.
Jets.
And the Jets. Not the Jets. The Giants are going to be up there too. No offense, Zone, if he watches this.
Sorry.
But it's rough, man, because you just don't know what the quarterbacks, right? Obviously, the quarterback's the most important position in the football field, so you just don't know. You know with Davis Mills and hopefully with Trevor Lawrence, you know they're going to get you a few wins. We don't know if Justin Fields can get you a few wins. I mean, the Bears realistically could go 0-17. Their roster's that bad. I don't think they will.
Yeah.
But their roster's that bad.
I think they'll beat Atlanta at least.
Maybe. I mean, Atlanta sucks too. Like that's
mean,
bad. When do they play?
It's in Atlanta, week 11, November 20th.
Battle of the first overall pick right there. Like that's who I think is going to be the two worst teams in the NFL. Unless somebody could have like a random pop down. Okay, so Chris, what do you think about? Did I say that? Did I ask everybody?
Yeah.
Oh, and the Bears play the Giants too. I forgot to add that.
Nice Giants. We'll see how Daniel Jones plays. Obviously. All right, let's go to the Lions. Then we have NBA news that I got to break right now. After this, so the Lions added Aiden Hutchinson, Jamison Williams, Kirby Joseph, and obviously they didn't really lose anybody. They lost Michael Brockers
And DJ Chark.
who's I have the he's not good. He's decent. Let's chill here. I have them winning about 6 or 7, maybe even 8 games. The Lions could be a sneakily decent team this year. So I'll talk about their draft. They had a really good draft. I like their draft a lot. Aiden Hutchinson, I think, is going to probably be the biggest impact guy year one out of the edges. So I like that pick for them, especially since Jacksonville took kind of a wild pick with Trayvon Walker. Taking a really safe pick with Aiden Hutchinson, I feel was smart. Jamison Williams, when he's healthy, is going to be a burner. I like Jamison Williams a lot. And then obviously Kirby Joseph, I liked a lot too in the safety position. In a secondary that is very lackluster. Depends how Jeff Okudah plays. I forgot his name for a second. I like Jeff Okudah out of Ohio State, but he's definitely been injury riddled. And they didn't lose anybody. And they still have Jared Goff as their quarterback, which I'm kind of surprised they didn't take a swing on a quarterback this year. They could have definitely taken a Malik or Desmond Ridder just to be there, but they didn't. They're sticking with Jared Goff for another year. Probably, I imagine they want less wins, it seems like, because they probably want to go after like a Bryce Young. But Broad, how do you feel about the Lions this year?
I think the Lions are actually going to be improved because the Lions were weird last year. Because, yes, their records showed that they were very bad, but a majority of their games, they were like very well in it, except for like when they got blown out by Eagles in week 8.
Yeah.
But I mean, I got them going around 5 to 7 wins because they added weapons for Jared Goff in DJ Chark and Jamison Williams. One guy that actually was the bright spot of their defense last year, which I think he'll be really good again this year. If I had to say like a sleeper player on the team, God, I have a feeling I'm gonna butcher his pronunciation of his last name. Amani Oruwariye, the 4-year guy out of Penn State. No, I did not just pick him because I'm a Penn State fan and he was a Nittany Lion, but he had 11 pass breakups, 57 tackles, a fumble recovery, and 6 interceptions, which was 3rd in the NFL behind only Trayvon Diggs and J.C. Jackson.
And I think another piece that nobody's really talking about is their offensive line is getting there. I mean, they're definitely
especially since they still have Ragnow.
Yeah, and they're definitely a building offensive line who's going to be decent this year. Chris, Lions this year, what do you think?
The Lions are a pretty decent team. I feel like they're not one of those bottom feeder teams anymore. I think that they can get maybe 5 to 6 wins this year. I think they definitely going to improve from what they had, 3 wins last year, 2 wins.
I think it was 3. What was it? 4-12-1 or 3-13-1?
Somewhere in there.
So I give them a 7-win ceiling, and I think they're going to be a pretty decent team. I like Aiden Hutchinson. I like how they finessed a team in their division to get Jamison Williams. I like Jamison Williams a lot. It's going to help, but they still have Jared Goff at the end of the day. And I think, but at the same time, they made the right move, not reaching on one of the quarterbacks this year, because all the quarterbacks this year, I don't really like, other than Malik Willis' potential and stuff like that. But other than that, everybody else was pretty much not it. So I think they made the right move by sticking with Jared Goff and just waiting until next year. So they on the up though.
All right, Jacob, before we talk about NBA news really quick, what do you feel about the Lions this year?
Well, there's not too much else to say. I love their offseason. I love what Brad Holmes is doing. Dan Campbell obviously brings a different energy to that team. They have a really good wide receiver core. Amon-Ra St. Brown is on the uprise. You got DeAndre Swift and still got Jamal Williams in that backfield. I mean, this offense can surprisingly be good. Jared Goff is still an average quarterback, and you can win games with that. With some young pieces on defense, I still think that needs a lot of time there. I said this about a year ago. I could see the Lions being in a Super Bowl in the next 6 years. So,
yeah, I mean, it's bold take, but it could happen. Let's move on to the NBA, which was not planned, but this is actually breaking news we need to talk about. So Kevin Durant met with the Nets owner today And Ree said that he needs a trade from the Nets unless Steve Nash is fired.
Steve Nash gone. Oh man, Steve Nash.
So he basically
Yeah.
gives an ultimatum to the Nets owner, says either Steve Nash is gone or he's gone. That simple. So if you're the Nets, you have to fire Steve Nash, right? You have to fire Steve Nash. Steve Nash has to be gone if you're the Nets, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Not even a
Oh,
question.
man.
No
Which
I
question.
just find
Steve
it
Nash.
funny that a bunch of Nets fans gave me so much crap because I said that Steve Nash was not a good coach.
Oh yeah, we all know.
And I think it was funny because last year when they hired Steve
Look
Nash,
where you guys are at now. Looks like I wasn't wrong.
I think it's kind of funny because when they hired Steve Nash, everyone was kind of talking about, oh, it's good to hire a players coach. I feel like a players coach in the NBA never works. Like I don't remember
No.
the last players coach that worked. I mean, you had Jason Kidd with Milwaukee who didn't work,
And the
Obviously-
Nets as well, and he was terrible there too.
and he's a Dallas's head coach now, right?
Yeah, and he's doing decent there.
He's doing
but a
decent
lot
in
of
Dallas,
player
but you have
coaches are-
Luca. I mean, you have Luca. I'd hope you do decent. But I mean,
Yeah, unless it's someone like Phil Jackson, we're never going to see that.
yeah, I
ever
mean,
again.
in the NFL it works, but not in the NBA. It's just different kind of breed there. And I mean, you have to fire Steve Nash now. I mean, you have to.
You
Again,
have to.
I
Steve
talked
Nash-
about I
Oh.
talked about this a few days ago when we talked about Kevin Durant, and I said you can't be the GM who trades Kevin Durant. You just can't do it unless he absolutely has to get out, and you're getting some killer trade package. But I can't see one realistically that's worth it when all you have to do is fire a coach who's not even that good. Like
Exactly.
I have looked into NBA coaches. I don't know who's available from the hire if they did fire Steve Nash, which I mean still a maybe. Because I mean, if that was me, the second Katie says that, Steve Nash is gone. Like the second that happens, but it still hasn't been out yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of coaches out there that I think could be better than Steve Nash for sure. You know, there's a couple on the market probably still that definitely could be better than Steve Nash. I mean, you look at guys like Cam Thomas, I think his name is. I seen clips of him. Like you could tell they all really don't really like Steve Nash and his philosophy. You can say they have no plan when they go out there playing basketball. They play ISO ball. They be just doing whatever they can. So
I mean, Frank Vogel's available.
Yeah. Oh no, God.
And I think it's really interesting because it's looking at where, especially Kevin Durant, who seems to have the biggest issue with Steve Nash. Look where KD's came from, and you can really see why like having no system would really hurt him. I mean, Golden State obviously has a brilliant system to get shooters open in Golden State. They don't just run ISO ball. And then obviously Oklahoma City Thunder was a little. They still ran a system, but it wasn't like Golden State, where I mean it was screens, all that stuff to get Kevin Durant open. And now Steve Nash is basically saying, all right, Kyrie, KD. ISO. I mean, really, they're saying Kyrie, KD, James Harden, just ISO, and get yourselves open, which just isn't good enough to win games in the playoffs. What are you saying that for?
I was just reading a report that the Lakers might be open to trading Anthony Davis.
What you got to say?
It depends for what, man.
But anyway, back to the Steve Nash situation. I mean, there are some quality coaches that are still out there, like Mark Jackson, Mike D'Antoni, Jeff Van Gundy. They all can take the helm at the Nets. But the reason why I think KD has not left yet is because Brooklyn put the ceiling too high. They want to say, oh, it's going to be the biggest trade in NBA history. No one is going to bite at that. That's why teams backed off, especially with this whole Phoenix Suns trade, where they said, oh, we're not trading him unless we get Devin Booker.
No, yeah.
Their demand was way too high. So now they're going to be desperate and take any trade, in my opinion, probably that they can get.
Yeah, especially if they want to keep Steve. I mean, they could just keep Steve Nash. They
Well,
could.
now,
And also, Kyrie is not guaranteed to play in Brooklyn either, because the reason why he bought into the option is because that makes signing trades so much easier.
Yeah. So speaking of Anthony Davis, I mean, it's a trade that, I mean, if they keep Steve Nash, could they do Anthony Davis for Kevin Durant? And if so, even though I think Anthony Davis, when healthy, is a top 5 player in the NBA. I don't care if you disagree. Anthony Davis, when healthy, is top 5. If you go watch back that championship run that the Lakers had, when he's healthy, it's so rare. But when he's healthy, he's a special player. He's like the CMC of the NBA. And but I mean, if you go watch back that championship run that the Lakers made in the bubble, I mean, Anthony Davis was the best player on that team. That's it. I mean, if you guys go watch that, Anthony Davis was the best player on the team. I think he hit who did he hit a game winner against in the playoffs? I don't remember who. But Anthony Davis was the best player on the team. I think he still is the best player in the Lakers when healthy. I love LeBron, but Anthony Davis when healthy is top 5. And LeBron when healthy is top 7, but he's not top 5. So, but if Jacob, you good?
Yeah.
Okay. So Broad, quickly with 2.5 minutes left in this meeting, would you do Kevin Durant for Anthony Davis and probably some picks, right? Because just a contingency plan just in case Anthony Davis isn't healthy, which is likely.
Well, I mean, the interesting part about that is if the Lakers did that, they wouldn't technically have a true 5 because Anthony Davis played the 4 and the 5 in LA. I mean, Andre Drummond didn't re-sign with the Nets, so I don't even know who the hell the Nets big man is. So that could work out in their favor. But honestly, I don't know if I would or not because, I mean, it would, in my opinion, as an NBA fan, it would be so cringy. Just so much cringe to see KD and LeBron on the same team.
I mean, look, I'm trying to find out who's okay. So the starting center right now for Brooklyn is Nick Claxton.
Who?
I don't know who that is.
No, in the words of the broadcast boys,
His lips.
I don't know who this is. I'm trying to find. Okay, he averages 8 points and 5 rebounds a game for his 2021 season. His last game, he against the Celtics, he had in the playoffs. He had 13 and 6. He is their starting center. He averages a 16% from 3 in his career. He averages, this is rough, 18% from the free throw line in the playoffs last year. But he does average 2 blocks. Give him that. That's rough.
Inspirational.
By the end of the week.
He's an inspirational player. And then obviously you have with the Nets, you have if Kyrie and KD stay, you have Joe Harris and Ben Simmons opposite. And you also have some decent bench players with Patty Mills, Seth Curry, TJ Warren, and Royce O'Neal, I guess.
Hey, I forgot TJ signed with Brooklyn.
TJ Warren is a good player. So, I mean, bubble TJ Warren's a really good player. All right.
Yeah.
So that concludes this episode. We will obviously go to our next division overview next episode. Hope everyone liked this episode and see you guys next episode.